guys. Hello everyone. I'm Kinsey here. I'm head of publishing at TapNation. And I'm really glad I'm here into the HGC to talk with you about Ice Cream Inc. In fact, we will talk about the creative driven success and how Ice Cream Inc. was made into a hit game thanks to the creatives. So definitely Ice Cream Inc. a creative driven success. That's going to be the talk on the next 20 minutes, basically. So, of course, like you guys are hearing a lot of things about hyper casual, about creatives and everything. But what we wanted to highlight here at first is really creative is key when it comes to publishing a hit game, because that will be the first entry to the user to your game. In fact, without creative, you cannot test your game, you cannot have your CPI, you cannot have like all the things that will lead the game to being a publishable hit game at the end of the day. So creative are really important. And then you have to put a really big focus on that, because for sure that will be the thing that will allow a user to just scroll on his feed, for example, of Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and be able to say, oh, I like what I see, I'm going to download that, and then I'm going to play this game. So you want really to be putting a big focus on your creatives. And I think this is a big key to understand how a game will be a hit game or not on the chart, basically. So we have some keys, we have some rules that I think it's really important to highlight when it comes to the creatives itself. So first of all, the creative has to be straightforward. Here, quite simple. It has to highlight your game. That's the key. It has to be quite simple and quite easy to grasp and to understand. So it means your user has to identify super quickly, like with a really fastness, like what it is exactly, what is the core of the game, what is the purpose of the game. Straightforward, understandable. Here, the user has to really be able to grasp the gameplay in a few seconds. Because the thing is, you don't want your user to stick to a video for a few seconds to try to understand your gameplay. So here you have to get a very easy and understandable gameplay so that anyone, like a young 10 years old or an older people of 70 years old, for example, they have to understand the gameplay super easily. So you want like to have simple action into your game, showcasing what the game will actually look like when they're gonna install it. Also, I think one of the key of the creative, it has to be visually appealing. Of course, when you have a creative with showcasing and displaying your game, you want it to be quite visually appealing. So it means colorful, impactful, things that will, appear the ears, the eyes, sorry, of your users. It means you want to have an action, something happening. You have to have also a good color palette in your game, something that anyone can understand and can see. For example, a blue character, a blue ragdoll, for example, in front of the enemy in red. Here you can differentiate just with the color who is the enemy, who is the character. So you want your game to be visually appealing, and you want your creative to display that in your creatives. So I would say that is the main three keys when it comes to your creatives. So straightforward and impactful, understandable, and also visually appealing. With those three aspects, most of the time, if your game is good and you have those three key points in your creatives, most of the time you will see that your creative will be really high quality. So just to give you guys some more context and some more example, we're gonna check those two creative, for example. So I'm gonna just display, for example, the one on right first. It's come from our game Cornhole, made with the Studio Papa. So here you have the three rule here: straightforward, understandable, and visually appealing. So you can see the color palette is quite nice. You have a good sound, catchy, everything. It's vibey, it's groovy. You have also a good color palette that is emphasizes the game quite well. The blue, the red, the differentiation between the yellow of the cheese and the green of the grass. It makes the game visually appealing. Straightforward, the game is quite simple, understandable. You understood quite easily what you have to do. You have to throw a bags into a hole. That's it. And if we check the creative, oh, sorry, just of the game, right there. I don't. Yeah, like that. So if we check this creative, for example, of Giant Rush, same thing. 3 rules are applying. So impactful, straightforward, understandable, and also easy to grasp and visually appealing. And very important, you have something that is, just very important, you have something that is happening really soon in the game because you want to have an action in the very first second. That's the visually appealing as well. It's not all on the color base, but it's also on having something actually happening. Here we put a wall to destroy because we wanted to have an interaction really soon into the creative to make people understand what they could have into this game. So those are some games, for example, that we did some creative, of course, like we produced many creatives on those games. And I wanted to show you and to highlight to you what can be done on the creative side. Of course, as you see, you could put a little catchphrase that can be interesting with the context of the game. For example, the phrase, if you beat the giant, you are legally skilled. Or I like to put my things into holes, for example. That can be funny things, funny catchphrase that you will, just put there just to grasp the attention of the users. But that's not mandatory, of course. So then we're gonna jump on other things. I'm just gonna, yep, okay. So here, we discussed about the creative process. So we want your creative to be as good as possible. Then we're going to apply that to the case of Ice Cream Inc. Of course, because this is what we want to do into that call, into that meeting. So Ice Cream Inc., as you guys know, this is a multi-million download game right now. We released it in end of 2019, and the game during all the year to 2020, it was really a great game, to be honest. So, of course, this game reached top 1 in simulation game in more than 21 countries with more than 100 million download right now. So, as you can imagine, it is a really big hit, Not every game reached those kind of milestone. So we are quite happy about it. So I'm gonna deep dive into how we build Ice Cream Inc. based on the creatives, because this is really a game that we built based on the creative, and you will understand why very soon. So Ice Cream Inc., what happened with the game? It was back in 2019. We started to, to say, okay, the ice cream, the ice cream video that all of you might have seen on the internet, with the Italian ice cream like this in spiral. Well, like this is super satisfying. And it was in a time where there were a lot of satisfying games in the genre. So we were like, okay, there are no game that has been done yet into that genre. So maybe we should do something in that area. So what we did first is we produced a motion design video. At the beginning, it was not even a game. It was just a motion design video that we produced. And what happened is, with this motion design video, we got a huge CTR. So for the one that might know the market, we got a CTR of 9%, which is insane. When we saw that, we was like, okay, this might be really interesting to turn this motion design into a real game. What we did is we contacted one of our partner studio, Redline Games, and we launched the game production. So just for the quick notes, as the game were only a motion, it was only a motion design video at this state. It takes a bit time, for Redline Games to produce the game actually, roughly around 2 to 3 weeks, because it was all about, putting the right shape, the mesh for the ice cream, and everything in place to build the game. So we had this game done in, let's say, 3 weeks after we pitched it to Redline Game. What happened is we test the game really soon after, but we end up having a good retention and a really good CPI, 25 cents CPI. So already we were like, okay, we know this game can be publishable. But what we have done, we were like, but we can maybe work the product just so we can iterate on the creative that we have so that we can get an even better CPI. Because we were feeling like with the very first creative that we did, it could be improved. So that's what we did. We worked on different iterations, especially about the colors, to be honest, at first, and some little elements. And that's how we end up getting a CPI of 13 cents, which is really, really great when it comes to the markets on iOS for sure and on the US market. So that was really something insane. I will also give you some more context and more concrete example. So that's the big change that we made between the 25 cents CPI creatives and the 30 cents CPI creatives. So as you can see, on the 25 cent one, we had a green background with a cone, an actual cone of ice cream, and some strawberry and vanilla flavor. So pink and white. While what we did is we changed the background color. We put it in pink, and we changed as well the cup. So we replaced the cone through an actual ice cream cup, basically, and we changed different colors. Of course, we didn't change from that to that. We iterate on different colors of background, different colors of ice cream, different flavors, and also different cups. And we end up testing like blue background, purple background, green, yellow, and everything, so that we can manage to get this pink background that work really nice at 30 cents CPI. So it was a major change, and things that were really good for us, because it would allocate us to push the game higher in the top charts. Because as you may know, maybe some of you that doesn't know that, the lower your CPI is, the higher your reach will be, because you will be able on the US side to push the game even higher and higher and higher. So that's why when we managed to get this CPI, we were super happy, and we decided, to push the game very high on the top chart, basically. So what you have to know is, once you have your first CPI, you manage to get a really good CPI and everything, it's good. You have something that's great. However, this is not the end, because this is just, the start. It's the soft launch phase. So you start to plug some networks and everything on your game. But after that, you have to work on your game still. So at some point, what you have to do is working on the creative during the maturity phase of your game, because of what we call the creative fatigue. So creative fatigue is something that happens to all publishers and all games when they are published, basically. It means that a few months after the game launch, after the game release, we have something that makes the CPI start to go high again. Because basically, your users, you already spend too much money on your main creative that are working. at some point you will have again to start to build something more on top of what you have, because at some point even your best creative will start to decrease in terms of performances. So that's the creative fatigue, and that is actually happening to anyone in the market. But there are some rules and some things to solve those issues. In fact, what we have to do as a publishers is we have to iterate based on the historical best creatives. Meaning, you take your better creative, for example, the pink one that worked really nice, and you iterate on it. It means you're gonna take few elements that work really fine, and you will build on top of that to try to iterate based on the best thing that you add. You will also try some new artistic direction, something which is really nice because, for example, you can say, okay, I add this game on a cartoonish art style, for example, then I'm gonna try to do a custom build to make a realistic approach, for example. Then you're gonna see, you keep the same game, you just switch the art direction, and you see if people are like, okay, I'm gonna click on it because what is this game? So this is a way as well to operate for the creative fatigue. And also you can try to introduce a new gameplay loop in your game. For example, you can say, okay, my game is quite good, but maybe if I put, for example, a little new obstacle in the game, a new element in the game, that should be good to record it and to show them to the new users, because as the users that were there in the very beginning are the ones that are really interested into the game, you want to reach another audience on the game. You want to reach an audience who may not be interested at first on your game, but that can be interested for the thing that you will add in your game afterwards. So that's really how to solve the creative fatigue overall. And that's really a big thing to do, because as you may see on the market, you have a lot of people that are doing that. I can take some example of Playrix, for example, when they are doing games, puzzle games, match 3 games, but on their creatives, you will have a lot of things relating to, for example, like storytelling game or other puzzle game that is nowhere close to the base game. So a lot of publishers are doing that to try, to get some more people into their game, basically. So in the case of Ice Cream Inc., how we did manage this creative fatigue. So I will put them on pause. Hold on. Okay. So if we go on this one, we iterate many times. Of course, I just put 3 videos because obviously I won't show you all the video that we tested. But yeah, that's the thing that we did overall on those games, on Ice Cream Inc. Sorry. So if I can give you a first one. Here we keep the pink theme overall, and we change a lot of things. We add more colors, more flavors. We add a try button at the very center of the screen with different music and everything, so that we can try to and add a customer. So we add really a lot of things into that creatives, and we try that in that sense. We try only. So hold on. It's always happening. So we tried only this version with 2 fingers, 1 twisted ice cream of 2 different colors, mystery box, and we tried as well this one. So as you can see on the different info that I put below, on the one of the left, so the very first video, when we tried it, this one failed a lot. So we increase our CPI we double our CPI basically. So it was not good at all, this one. Then on the one of the middle, with just few elements and the two fingers, we managed to get the similar CPI. So at the end, we didn't do much about what we wanted to do at the end. While on the other and latest creative that you see with the unicorn and the light green background, we managed to reduce our CPI by we double we reduce your CPI, sorry, by 50%. So it was really a big thing 6 months after the game release. So here, as I showed you, we tried so many different things and we choose the one that had better results, the unicorn theme. Of course, like there are many reasons behind that. We were thinking in-house that, ice cream, rainbow color, unicorn, those things are quite similar. So that's why we put that into the creative aspects. So this is not in the game, but this is something that we add into a custom build to be able to get this CPI lower at the end. And thanks to that good creative of unicorn, we managed to do it. And if you remember, we also took that in reference. The very first creative with the green background, we took it back in this unicorn theme. So of course we tried the unicorn theme with green and pink background, and it turned out that the green worked really best than the pink. So we thought as well about using one of the best creatives from the beginning into this unicorn theme. So that's really how we managed to solve this creative fatigue when it comes to Ice Cream Inc. and how we built around ice cream. So just as a quick reminder, and just to finish, and just to finish the presentation itself, again, creative are really important to your game. They are the first entry for user to your game. Don't hesitate to iterate a lot on creatives, on different colors, different backgrounds, different like characters, even add more gameplay loop into the game, because it will be very important at the very end. Try different gameplay as well, art direction, and so on. But beware of the creative fatigue, because it will happen at some time. Sometimes it can be 4 months, 6 months, or even a year, but at some point it will happen. So beware about that, and you will have to anticipate that creative fatigue and to be able to iterate again and again to anticipate the creative fatigue and to try something really new on the game. And of course, keep iterating on the long term, as I said. So this is really how we did manage to build the success of Ice Cream Inc. And that's really how Ice Cream Inc. were a major success, thanks to the creatives. So I think now it will be very soon the time for the Q&A session. I was glad to share those info with you guys. And yeah, now time for the Q&A session. Thanks.
Before we go online, that we are going online, okay?
Yeah, no worries.
Yes. So not yet.
Because
Okay.
it seems it still didn't finish the speech, because I think it was a bit late with the previous maybe guy, I think.
Yeah. It was a couple of minutes ahead. Yeah.
So maybe it will impact all the different the other presentation, I think.
We will see our best to catch the schedule.
Exactly. It's always the same with those kind of events when it's kind of hard to to manage, because if one people is late, then it's gonna impact all the presentations. So it's yeah.
Actually, we have like extra space for breaks in between speeches, so we will try to get back to the schedule with the help of this buffer. But let's see.
Fair enough. We hope so.
Yeah. So looks nice. It seems like you have a minute or two in your speech left, right? Not that many.
I think it's 2 minutes.
Okay, good. So let's get prepared.
Yeah.
First, before reading questions from the chat, I will ask you again to stress a couple of points about difference of your company from other publishers. What do you do different, and why do you believe in that? Okay.
Yep.
So to stress again that you're not like others.
Clearly.
Good.
So I have to respond that right now, right?
And then yeah, you can respond questions.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, basically, to reply to your question, like what we do differently is we put a big focus really on the creative aspect. When I say on the creative, is all from the ideation part itself. So where we will definitely give a lot concept, a lot pitch game to the studios, because we feel this is something that we have to be to do as a publisher. We have a good eye on the market, on the trends, so we can identify some trends easily and quite fast. And I think it is one of the key role that we have to do as a publisher, is to drive studios to some like impactful concepts. So this is what we do. And also on the creative part as well, we can be able to support the studios a lot, by plugging the art team and the game design team, so that we can be able to like being into the production phase with the studio, not on the coding side, but at least on the arts and game design side, because this is something that can be key to a game, basically.
Cool. I believe all this, viewers will love to hear from you. It sounds absolutely great. Wow, you're a great speaker. I must admit.
Thanks.
Cool. Okay, so almost there, I believe.
Yeah, I think I almost finished.
You're getting more and more viewers online. It's ticking every minute. 600, 610, 11, 12. Cool. That means you speak about interesting stuff. Over 600 people watching you online.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, 600.
Okay, I'm almost there. Okay.
I think this is it.
Okay. Good. Waiting to stop. Yes. You say goodbye and we go online.
Okay. Hi, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, we're online. So,
Okay.
Kinsey, thank you so much for a very interesting speech. It was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks, Alexander.
Thank you. We have several questions in chat, but before that, I would ask you to really re-specify, re-stress the difference of the TapNation from other publishers. What is unique about TapNation? What do you do differently, and why?
Yeah. Like basically what we do differently mainly is all the creative approach, not the creative in the sense that I just stated in the video, not the videos, the ads it's themselves, but really all the support that we give to the studio on the creative side. So from the ideation, as we know as a publisher, a lot of trend on the market, we can identify many trends, many games that are interesting. We really want to be pitching the studios with great concepts because we do believe that we have to play a part into the ideation and the production phase with the studios. So we will give pitch, game design documents, and everything so that we can build really interesting concepts. And on top of that, we build and we give a good support on the production phase when it comes to adding and plugging art team and game design team with the studios so that they can be able, to like produce some good assets for a given game and have a good direction for a given game. So I think this is really how we differentiate ourselves from the crowd. Is we really support all the creative process from the ideation to the game design and arts side.
Thank you so much. Sounds like you really know a lot about creativity. This is absolutely great. So we have questions in chat. Do
Yeah.
you need to make updates to the creatives with time in order to scale further, or are you still using the same creatives even after 2 years of launch of Ice Cream Incorporated?
Yeah, so that's why I was. That's what I was telling when I was telling about the creative fatigue. You really need to renew your creative at some point because after a few months or years, depending on the game, you will see that your CPI will start to rise on all different networks because you will overuse those creative, the creative that will perform at the beginning, and at some point CPI will start to rise. So you will have to renew the different package of creatives and fight different things. So maybe changing art direction, twisting colors, adding a new gameplay loop into your game so that you can be able to refresh this creative, those creatives and get a CPI lower at the end.
Thank you so much. And the related question: how many ads did you try until you have decreased your CPIs exponentially?
Like what we did, to be honest, so on the first phase at launch, usually we test like around, I would say, 10 to 15 ads. So that's not a big number. But when it comes to the maturity phase, when you reach the creative fatigue and you want to reduce your CPI, then sometimes you have to iterate on 50, 80 creatives. So it can be a lot because you really want to try different things and multiple things. Some things that cannot even be related closely to the game sometime, but you have to try that. So it can be a big number. And I think in our case, it was close to 50 to 60 different pack of creative that we tested.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. The next question is: was creative the key element that defined the success of the game more than the concept, gameplay, and marketing?
So it's a combination of both, actually. For sure, without a good game, you cannot have a good creatives. So if your game is good, but you have a bad creative, for sure it will impact the success of your game. So you will have to have a good balancing between both so that you can find for sure the right game on the right time, trendy game and everything, and be able to sell this game as much as you can through one creative that will perform. So it means, and I think it was obvious in the example of ice cream, we knew the game were good based on the in-game stats and the first creative that we got of 25 cents CPI, but we were feeling that we could iterate further and then we got to 13 cents CPI thanks to the iteration that we got. So that's why as soon as you identify a good concept, don't hesitate to give you some more shots on the creative aspects to try to reduce your CPI.
Thank you so much. The next question is, how does monetization work for Ice Cream Nation? I imagine that the video ads are very expensive. How do you monetize to cover it? Alpha, I understand that CTR has been minimized to 0.1 to 10 cents.
So basically on the monetization part, it's quite straightforward basically. So your goal basically is to reach and to acquire user through ads at the cheapest possible price. So let's say in our example, 13 cents CPI. And you have to be sure that thanks to your in-game ads, so banners, interstitial, and rewarded video, that you will have an LTV per user that is higher than 13 cents, basically. So that's really the basic and the really straightforward approach when it comes to the monetization. Your LTV per user has to be higher than your CPI per user. That's as simple as that.
Thank you so much. Which ads network publisher use to check CPI?
So at first, what we do is we test on Facebook for quite a basic reason, because it's super easy to test on Facebook. And right now, more and more publishers, so do I, we do test as well on Snapchat to have a different, to have a second base of tests, so that we can compare both CPI on Facebook and on Snapchat. So yeah, that's usually Facebook and Snapchat for the test period.
Thank you. Thank you. Very interesting. What the minimum number of installs do you take into account when deciding if the CPI is good or bad?
So the minimum of install will directly be impacted by the CPI itself. Meaning, if you have like it's at the end of the day, it just you just have to divide what you have to take into account is the budget that you put and the impressions and how many people will actually install the game. So that's just it. At the end of the day, if you put it's all depending on the budget, because if you put a $100 budget and you have 100 install, it will be different than if you put $50 budget with 100 install. So that will just be the math that you have to make. But at the end of the day, that's just about the budget that you put, basically.
Thank you. What other things should we consider for 3 seconds rule?
So as I said, so I can say it again, but the 3 second is really, you have to display something interesting that happened in the very first second. So either, if I can take the example of a runner game, like overtaking an obstacle, for example, or like smashing a guy, or doing an action which will be appealing. You can also put a fail very close into your video, because we know that fail are working quite well on the creative side. And also be catchy, catch the attention of the users using a good color palette, something cool happening, and displaying your game the simplest way as possible, because you have to showcase your game at the end of the day.
Thank you. And next question, how can you understand that you are developing your skills of creative creation?
So can you repeat the question?
How can you understand that you are developing your skill of creative creation, of creativity?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. So on the creative side, I think you will reach a point where you will, the first thing that you have to do on the creative side is you have to benchmark a lot to see what is going on in the market, what people are trying and everything. And also, like, ultimately, you will see based on the KPIs, because the KPIs, like the CPI, for example, the CP, the cost per click, or the click-through rate, for example, will be the things that give you if you are good on the creative or not, basically. So that's really the ultimate goal when it comes to analyzing your performances, is checking your CPI, your KPI, and be able to see if you're gonna reduce them over time or if it's gonna increase.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And the next question connected to metrics. What ROAS should we target, and in how many days should we break even?
Here it's a very complicated question to give a good reply, because at the end of the day, it will really depend on the game. For me, there is no specific answer to that. Some games will have higher ROIs than others, and in break-even style, it will be the same. Some game has like much more content, much more retention, while some games will be very based on very low CPI and not a very strong retention. So it will be super different from one game to another. You can be break even in, I don't know, like 2 weeks with a game, while some for other game it will take maybe 1 month or 2 months. So here it's really based on the different games.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And probably the final question for today: roughly how many games did you test before getting a hit game like Ice Cream?
That's a good question, actually. I think this question is a bit hard to get, but I would I will give an actual answer to that. So I think the ratio in hyper casual markets, it's around, I would say, at least 120 games to test, or even 150 games to test before getting an interesting game to work on. It's not mean that you will get any game from that, but at least that you will be able to work on this game and to iterate on it. So I think, yeah, that's the rough number. Some are most optimistic about it, some are more pessimistic about it, but I would say that's the overall like number of game in our case, at least.
Thank you so much. This is it for today. Kinsey, thank you for absolutely amazing positive energy you brought to us and a lot of knowledge concentrated in that squeezed period of time. Thank you so much to share.
Okay. Thanks, Alexander. Thanks, guys. Hope to see you soon, and thanks to the AGC.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye bye, guys.